Already. Right. Hi everyone, welcome to round 2 of the Interschool 2017. These are the opportunities as Prime Minister.
The demanding world that we live in today, we think it's only right for us to start employing unemployed people to actually work for these disruptive industries by the end of the day. So, two things I'll be doing in my speech today. First, I'll be giving you a clear characterization as to what the debate is all about, and second, I'll be giving you my arguments as to why we support this motion, right? So first, a clear characterization. There's a few controversial terms that I think we should clarify and tell you what it actually means, right? So what do we mean by mandating disruptive industries? Basically, what the opening government side is trying to do is that we're ordering or demanding these disruptive industries as we define as ways that are more organized and more modern, like industries like Instagram or like Facebook or these Google companies or companies like Uber or Airbnb. Which are actually more modernized and the quality of services are better than the services that were provided before this, right? And so what we mean by prioritizing employee workers is based by their services. Basically what we mean by this is that we're taking in workers who are unemployed. And let's characterize a bit on these unemployed workers, right? These unemployed workers are workers who are most probably fresh graduates, right? Workers who have fresh imagination and creativity by the end of the day. So what's our policy under our side, right? We tell you that the mechanism that we're bringing to you in today's debate is that we're setting up a quota, we're setting up a quota for these workers. So we we'll have more unemployed workers to start working rather than employed workers, right? And we'll still do background checks. So fine. So the stance I was thinking to in today's debate is that we want to progress these markets in Malaysia, right? We want to help with the development and progression for these disruptive markets at the end of the day. Now moving on to the arguments themselves. See the arguments here, right? First argument, and then the progression of these industries and how they'll actually develop by the end of the day. We thought when you hire unemployed workers, these are the workers who are desperate to get a job, right? Because we thought that they want to prove that they won't be at the end of the day. The reason these workers get unemployed in the first place is not because they're not qualified, but it's because these industries have a high quality or high standard that they're not able to reach up at the end of the day, right? But we thought that these unemployed workers, when they are offered this opportunity, don't seize any opportunity and chances that they get because they thought that they're desperate by the end of the day. They want to work and they want to earn income by the end of the day. Yes.
The motion is not only about unemployed workers, but about unemployed workers who are displaced by the services and their own existing service. So how are these people with the qualifications to work under their existing services okay to be employed under companies which don't necessarily require these qualifications in the first place?
Right. We thought that when we talk about people who are displaced by services, it doesn't mean that they're unemployed workers by the end of the day. When we look at the nature of these disruptive industries, right? We tell you that these disruptive industries like Facebook and Google have a very conducive environment to work with, and they have a very a holistic environment, and they modernize and open environment to work with and see. So we tell you that the workers who are being employed in these kinds of services and industries will be able to produce better quality workers, right? Because we tell you that it's not just these unemployed workers who will be working for this company, right? We tell you that there's also experienced workers, the CEOs. There's also these experienced workers to help them to benefit the progression of these industries at the end of the day. So we don't see that as a big harm in the first place, right? So second argument, as to how the working experience will be better for these individuals who are desperate in the need of working place, right? And desperate for the needs of jobs, right? We tell you that when you actually have these kinds of disruptive industries, right? Because as I mentioned in my characterization, that these disruptive industries are the industries that are urban and modern, right? And these are the kinds of working experience that people want to opt for by the end of the day. We tell you when you employ unemployed workers in these kinds of companies, they'll shape the individuals because you have a supportive working place.
Would you also employ and maintain these companies to, hire unemployed workers who don't necessarily possess the qualifications as those who were displaced by their services?
So the mechanism that we're bringing into this debate is to lower down to lower down the standards of these companies, right? Not because we don't want the best for the development of the company, right? We tell you that we bring this as an incentive to bring about more unemployed workers that actually that actually are fighting for a working experience by the end of the day. So that we're decided to give opportunities for these unemployed workers to actually to be capable of work by the end of the day. Now, before I got interrupted, let's talk about the working experience. Tell you that we have a supportive working experience that encourage you and motivate you to work better, right? Encourage you and motivate you to be a better person, to have a better quality of life as a worker by the end of the day. And we tell you that the qualification for urban industries don't only qualify people with high merits in graduation or stuff like that, right? We tell you that these urban industries also hire people with high imagination and high creativity, right? We tell you that the reason these unemployed workers are unemployed in the first place is not because they're not capable of doing a certain job, right? We tell you that they're unemployed because of other reasons, right? So if you want a world where these urban industries will be able to progress and develop, please go for site opening them.
If this debate becomes a debate on which side can actually benefit the majority part of society, those who are unemployed and those who don't necessarily possess the qualifications to work under existing services, then we take this debate in the very first place. Number one, we tell you that side has got the motion totally wrong. This debate is not about us wanting to employ or wanting to mandate these, disruptive companies to hire unemployed workers. We think this debate is about the companies, the disruptive companies who are already existing in the first place, trying to hire those who were displaced by their own by these disruptive companies. All right. Okay. Simple term. Hotel A is outdone by Airbnb. The qualified displaced workers at Hotel A is now mandated to be hired by Airbnb. So that's what the motion is basically about. So on the other side, all the benefits also happen on our side. Secondly, the working experience that they so badly wanted for these undergraduates and things like that aren't actually happening on the other side. Because in the first place, the workers who are displaced by these disruptive services are those who necessarily possess some form of qualifications in order for them to work at these hotels, in order for them to work as taxi drivers. Those qualifications naming an SPM qualification or even a hotel degree and things like that, right? Their burden is to us why these qualified workers are so much better and are supposed to be mandated by these disruptive companies to hire them in the first place compared to compared to these companies actually doing what they think is best for them and have their own sense of choice, right? No, thank you, sir. So her opening line was her wanting to, employ those who are unemployed. We tell you that that itself is not mutually exclusive, because on the outside, we also have that many people who are unemployed. We have so many people who are living off of streets with no qualifications at all. And these are the people who actually have some form of revenue for them to explore. For example, Airbnb or Uber, because you don't necessarily need some form of qualification for you to work there. So these people actually have a source of income at the end of the day instead of no income at all. So on their side, they also have to defend why these unemployed people don't deserve to have a revenue of jobs for them to explore or for them to have a source of income at the end of the day, right? Okay, so, no, thank you, sir. All right, so on the other side, what I'll be talking about are three things. Number one, what companies actually are. Secondly, on how shared economy works. Thirdly, what happens when you mandate, and also what happens to the workers who are displaced. All right, so what exactly are these companies for? We know that number one, these companies are money-minded. It means that they are there to get the most profit that they can, and they will go for options that will cost much less money. That requires them to pay these people less and things like so. Secondly, they don't possess any obligations to cater to those who are displaced by them outdoing the existing services, right? And lastly, on how companies should be able to have their own choice on how they want to renovate as a company and things like that. These companies were established as a more enhanced version of hotels or even taxis, right? So this itself creates that large of a job opportunity that anyone can become a taxi driver now, that anyone can actually work at a hotel called Airbnb now and things like so. So given the fact that they don't need much qualifications, and it's easy for those who don't have a job yet are still looking for a job to comply to these standards and at least have some form of income at the end of the day. We tell you that we're fine with status quo. We're fine with these people working under existing companies to also work under Airbnb or Uber. We're fine with that. However, we're not okay with the idea of mandating, because now these companies will have to turn a blind eye to the jobless people. These companies will carry the obligation of being a nice company instead of a money-minded one, which they are at the end of the day, right? So how does shared economy actually work? People to come by, right? But secondly, on how they pay less, that your qualifications are not much of a burden that they have to cater to and things like that. So it means that given the fact that displaced workers are those who are unqualified but can still qualify to work, it means those who are already qualified in the first place will necessarily burden the company to pay them more or to provide them retirement benefits or insurance as workers and things like that, things that their existing services already provided in the first place. But now that these qualified workers are working under companies who don't need your qualifications and they are paid less, these are the people who will become more cherry picking against about the sorts of services or the sort of work that they have to do at the end of the day, because it's something that they're doing for much less of a price and things like that, compared to people who are jobless and who are desperate for work, would work in cases where whatever it is that you give them, as long as they can put some form of food on the table at the end of the day, that is enough for them. We think that these are the people that needs to be prioritized at the end of the day instead of those who are already qualified at the end of the day. But secondly, what happens when you mandate? We tell you that the people who are jobless are left with little to none job revenues for them to explore. For example, when you work at hotels or taxis and you have that form of qualification, it's easier for you to find another job elsewhere that required that SPM degree or that college degree that you have earned in the first place. It's easier for these people to look for jobs elsewhere instead of opting for jobs that don't meet their qualifications at the end of the day. We tell you that it creates a much mental world at the end of the day where these are the people who are much brighter time in their life, who don't necessarily have to go to the furthest extent for them to get some form of income at the end of the day, right? Because if Hotel A is outdone by Airbnb, they can simply go to Hotel B and get another job there. However, the man on that street who really have nothing to offer up to these hotels or taxis, they are forced to live their days day in, day out without sources of income. And lastly, on how workers who are displaced, we're fine with them opting into disruptive companies, is what you would like to call them. However, the idea of mandating itself is going to be something that's much more harmful at the end of the day, on how these companies are going to be coerced into staying in this little box of confinement where they cannot bring out what they actually wanted to bring out at the end of the day. We think that on the our side, when we help more people who are jobless, where we're okay with status quo, and we're actually providing people who don't necessarily have the qualifications with sources of income, and telling them that these are the happiness that you can opt for, that you are in a way useful to society, it's better than siding with people who are already privileged with the qualifications that they necessarily possess. At the end of the day, we bring more change to the majority. Thank you.
When talking about industries, you must first analyze the purpose of you actually starting up that company or starting up that business, right? So we thought that industries that exist already in City School, they have this need to serve the people because it's their responsibility to the needs of society in the first place. We think that it's better for us to employ workers who are displaced by their services because our disruptive industries can still help them in the long run, right? Still things I'll do in my speech. Firstly, rebuttals to whatever came up from opening opposition. Second, I will confirm our case set up brought to you by my Prime Minister. And I'll also present to you my one argument is the better quality of living and rationalize what will happen and go first in the long run, right? Without wasting any time, let's go on to rebuttals from what she said. So let's look at the main materials coming from opening opposition, right? So she wanted to push the idea on qualifications, the burden that we must take under our side. Our response is that we know that individuals who have no qualification or individuals who already have qualifications will progress along in the workforce, right? Because when you work, you are being evaluated. You know that you are being judged by your raw skill set down, and you know that you must work harder and you must strive to actually help your company, right? So people with qualifications can become better, or people without qualification can still be better because of the environment that they work in is very conducive, that you can only find in disruptive industries, and because they want to have better pay, so they have better. Second rebuttal is that she also mentioned in speech that these companies have no obligations to cater to workers who are displaced by their services. But we thought that these companies will actually have the initiative to actually want to employ these workers, because we thought that disruptive industries still look at qualifications and therefore they just provide more job opportunities for people. We think that's more important than what they have to bring on today's debate, right? I want to get a few of my rebuttals in my tweet. Please sit down, just started. So let's look at let's reaffirm what my Prime Minister told the House, right? Under our stance to progress the market and also Malaysia, we think that this mandate is the right thing to do, is take the school right now, because we think that the economy of Malaysia, just the life in Malaysia, needs to progress at a quicker pace. Under our side, at the end of the day, what we want to achieve is that we want to help people to help people get get better quality of life and get better jobs, because we have to understand the society are the ones who's going to contribute back to the country, who's going to bring our country in better progress, right? So the debate on whether like workers displaced by services will actually help disruptive industries, whether this mandate is actually worth it, we tell you that we're willing to trade all the benefits under our side, right? So like just a few clarifications on what my Prime Minister has told you. Under our side, we see that these disruptive industries are employing workers who are qualified and also like people who don't have that much qualifications like undergraduates, because disruptive industries take both at the end of the day, because these two types of workers will benefit their company in the long run, right? So let's look at my argument, which is a better quality of living. So my Prime Minister talked to you on how like this mandate will benefit industries. I will talk to you on how it will actually benefit society, right? So for a country to progress, we need to live in a state that is also progressing, right? We have to like receive good quality of services and products so that actually have be at the right to my first evaluation.
Okay, what happens to those unqualified, unemployed people under your side? Do they stay unemployed?
Thank you. No, we already told you that under our side, we provide more, like we provide better job opportunities. My parents already told you that disruptive industries take people with qualification and also people without qualifications, because these industries want workers, they want to progress, like a lot of like having a big number of workers that will also progress as individuals along the way will help benefit their country, right? So irrelevant coming from their side. So let's look at the first level, which is the needs of society, right? So we thought that under like Interschool or like us as individuals ourselves, we demand for a good quality of life. We demand to live in this like clean environment. We demand to have good products and services for us to actually be comfortable in what we live in, right? So government has a direct responsibility, the state duty to cater the needs to society, right? So we told you this is why the mandate exists in the debate. So why, like, how is this mandate actually help people? Well, the good service can actually like upgrade the quality of living of these individuals, and this is important because note that when you have the quality of the day, it directly contributes to the happiness of society. So now society will be much happier, like when they have good products and good services like Uber, and they have like nice like social media platforms like Instagram and Twitter. We thought that's a big benefit for society, right? And most important is this: how does this mandate actually help society in the first place, right? I feel like links to this. So let's look at firstly how disruptive industry is good and is better is and the proof is because they provide better service, right? So the proof on how this disruptive industries is better is that like we see in Interschool, people take Uber more than actually go for taxis. Why? Because you have to understand that Ubers are more accessible and more convenient, and I think like the environment of the Uber compared to taxi itself is what pleases people and actually attracts people to go for Uber rather to go for taxis, right? So this is the proof that people actually like rather go for disruptive industries than actually go for like normal companies that don't really cater their needs fully, right? Because we're living in a modern era where people just want to cater to their needs easier. But second, sit down. Like, so we employ people who like undergraduates or workers who are displaced by the services. We thought that they have more initiative to work better because firstly, like I told you in the more qualification, they know that they're being evaluated by their like by their CEOs or by their bosses in their companies, right? And also because the fact that they're just grateful that they're being hired by a company that has like that can provide better service, company that people like, companies that are easier to gain profit, that this profit will also benefit them and their pay, right? So tell the anyway, you're still qualified. We don't think that qualification should be a problem and an issue in today's debate. So like outcome of this, right? Sit down. The attitude of these workers during work and the treatment for others better. Why? Because we are already aware that when you work in disruptive industry, right, these kind of companies, they have ratings. Snapchat has ratings, Uber has ratings. So it means that now they have initiatives to actually increase the ranking, because when you have high rankings and you attract more people and you gain more profit, right? So more profit attracts gives you better pay and gives you better worker benefits. This is what society demands in the first place, right? So therefore qualified or unqualified people will still work under our side. What will happen in the long run? Let's look at why opposition loses today's debate, right? So this industry under their side will never progress because they only take people with certain qualifications. They don't provide job opportunities for people. They don't give chances for people to actually improve when they work in the company. We don't think that it will benefit at the end of the day. Opening government take today's debate because we thought we really prove on how we actually cater to society and the industries in Malaysia, right? So this will actually bring progress in Malaysia in the long run with the direct contribution that they give to you. And outside, we provide opportunities for the youth, right? We must understand the youth space on how they really want to work and really want to see country progress. We think that that's the initiative that is existing under our side. And with that, we've never been prouder to propose go inside opening government.
Government side came up here to talk about how they want good workers who has qualification to progress. But what about those who actually want to work at these industries, and what about those who actually want to work at these industries who don't properly have the qualification? So we tell you that government side is totally ignoring the fact that these workers who don't properly possess the qualification, and they are and the government side are actually pushing away these unqualified workers, and they are not taking an incentive into their workers, which I will later elaborate on. So first of all, government side has told you that they want to help people get better jobs and how they want to produce good workers. Well, we tell you that how are you supposed to help these people get better jobs if you are totally pushing away those who are these workers who aren't pushing away those workers who are unqualified or unexperienced. So basically, government side is living in a utopia where they want to hire both workers who are qualified and unqualified to have a job. But the debate mandates you to hire qualified displaced workers, so your work can be achieved, and I will later explain how we can achieve a better world. So moving on, if disruptive industries are good, will you now have to abolish public transports for hotels that aren't RHB? And thirdly, no thank you. Government side has also come up here to tell you that that they can have happiness of workers on their side. So we tell you that how are you supposed to create a form of happiness where those who are in need of jobs, these people who are unqualified, who are in need of jobs, no, sit down, can be happy that now that the government side wants to mandate proper qualified people for these kinds of jobs. So on our side, we actually want. So what do we want on our side? We want our people to get more jobs and to contribute to the country, because we want more. And the more amount of people who have jobs instead, which I will tell you in my outcome. So first of all, on our side, we want to give a higher and better choice to people, to basically everyone. Because first, for example, to be a Uber driver, you can either choose to drive even though you are not actual driver. And by mandating proper qualified workers, it is like banning those who are inexperienced to driving. So at least on our side, we provide a better choice for people. Yes, we do concede to the fact that maybe they are unqualified, but we tell you that these people can still do their job. Why? Because they want to be a Uber driver or whatever, so they are obligated to the policies of being one. So when we are telling you that even though they are unqualified, or so, at least we provide a better avenue, a better choice for these people. Because let me take the example. Because if you want to be a Uber driver, you don't have to
No, thank you. So basically, under this point, we want a better avenue for these people who are in need of jobs, because on government side, they only incentivize those who who are properly qualified and has the qualifications. But we tell you that isn't it better if we so what government side want is progress, and they want to make these who are already qualified better. So we tell you that by making these yes, we do consider the fact that it is going to progress these or who are already qualified to become better. No, thank you. You sit down. So even though we consider the fact that it is good to progress these who are already experienced or qualified, but we tell you that we want everyone to have progress. So basically, what we are trying to say is that government side is just progressing those who already are qualified and not even taking incentives to those who don't, who are in need of jobs. So basically, there are two types of people in this debate: those who are capable for these companies, and those who can be capable, but of course they are unqualified. So on our side, at least both of these people get jobs. So moving on, as my leader of opposition has stated that companies are how companies are money-minded, and so because we have to understand that these companies have their own rights and their own obligations to these workers, and so as my leader of opposition has told us, what do these companies do? Yes, they pay less but work more. So now to my outcome. So as I stated before, at least these disruptive industries supply an outcome and a better choice to these to those who are labeled as unqualified. So other than that, we provide a better avenue for everyone, for inexperienced workers, so on. So now, we want a world where more people get jobs, and when everyone has more people get jobs, and those who already have progressing those who are already qualified.
The point in which you disallow displaced individuals hired by the companies that displace them, you undermine their ability and leave them behind and leave them displaced for the rest of their lives. The stance coming from side closing government is that we want to ensure as much as possible we give as many people opportunities to jobs. We think that this debate, the opening debate, has been very messy because we think that they lack comparatives, and we would be more than happy to take our POIs. I have three rebuttals in form of questions for you today before I go into my arguments. Firstly, what is side burden? Secondly, obligation to hire displaced workers, and third of all, is qualification the problem? But firstly, what is side opposition's burden? They're fine letting these individuals working, but they're not fine mandating. And we think that that's extremely dangerous because they are copying out the emotion, because if they tell they're fine, then this means that they concede side closing government's case. And we tell that this is very harmful because it means that they cannot achieve their goal that is stated. And secondly, they said that they want these individuals to be paid well, right? But they fail to see the comparative, because the comparative is them having no pay under their side. Because under side closing government, if we allow these individuals to have the work for us, it would mean that they have comparatively more pay compared to side opposition, where they will have no pay at all because they've been displaced by the services have a seat. My second rebuttal in form of question: the companies have the obligation to hire displaced workers. We think yes, of course, these companies have the obligation of hiring these displaced workers because these displaced workers were previously disrupted by such companies. And I think it's their responsibility to fix the problem that they created. I think the comparative underside opposition is that these individuals will still be displaced because they do not mandate and ensure that these companies hire these individuals that they've previously displaced. No, and is qualification a problem? We think that they came until that the problem is qualification, but without that, that little to no qualification is required, and without that, we mandate that already. And we think that this debate is more about displaced individuals. And we think that the individuals that were already displaced had experiences that was crucial, such as PR skills and managing people. But we think that what happens then is that qualification is not a problem because these people previously had experiences that made them qualified for this job. And we tell you there's a very big contradiction coming from side and side opening government failed to see the biggest stakeholders in this debate, which side closing government will cover. Firstly, the best interest of disruptive services, and secondly, the best interest of displaced workers. But firstly, why is it in the best interest of these disruptive services? By far that sure.
Okay. These companies aren't there to, take care of the welfare of these people or to appreciate their ability. These people want the most money that they can actually make. What makes you think that, companies would actually have the incentive to cater to this unwanted obligation?
Firstly, we tell you that it's the moral obligation of such company to fix the problem that they created. But I'll tell you later in my argument why is the best interest of the disruptive service. But first, in status quo, hundreds of Uber drivers and Airbnb hosts get victimized by the hotels and taxi drivers because their business was disrupted by their services. And we think there are 4 levels to this extension. Firstly, we think that by hiring these individuals, we can increase the company's reputation. Because what happens is that we can decrease the victims on the ground, and therefore people will see such companies in good light. And this means that such companies will be seen as saviors because these so-called disruptive companies will be saving such individuals from poverty. And without this means that news companies are more likely to report this because such news sells, and therefore it means that your company will gain plenty of traction, which is what the company solely wants. I think the comparative under your side is that company will be defamed by these individuals, and more victims will be raised on the ground. And the second level of this argument, how you have better Uber drivers and Airbnb hosts have said I won't take anymore. We think that the reason that these individuals are displaced are only because of these companies. Because these companies are facing so much competition that they have to lay off workers. And we think this debate isn't really about qualification, rather who can afford to pay them. And we think that if Uber and Airbnb hires these individuals, no, I won't take anymore. We think that what happens is that if these companies hire these individuals, we think that these individuals will be extremely good at company because they previously had experiences that help them. For example, how they know how to treat their customers or the best route. I think that when more people are opting to this, when more people are working for these individuals and there's on a net better service, we think that more people are more likely to opt in, which leads to the third level of this argument. I said I won't take anymore. So the third level is how more people will opt into your services. So when you have more individuals, right, that have beneficial and crucial experiences, we tell you that your general rating will rise. And it means that more people will opt into your services because it means that it becomes cheaper and more effective. And we tell that what happens then is leads to the 4th level, which how these companies will create a better profit. We think that what happens is that we concede to some extent, and in fact totally concede that these companies are all about money. They want to make as much money as possible. And sure, it means that they pay less on a net to each individual. But we tell that what happens is that on a net, they pay more individuals, even though they pay each individual less money, it will mean they focus on more individuals rather than less individuals. Because we think on a net, we reach more people on the outside. Because what happens is that they want to hire more people and hire as much people as possible. I think that's in these companies' best interest, because when they have more people working for them, it will mean they have faster or more services, and which will mean money for them. And we think that sure they benefit, but because we think that a lot of these individuals will benefit, because what happens is that when they have more or faster services, it means that services are more likely to be efficient, and therefore they can rely on critical mass. And the second extension, how is in the best interest of displaced workers? We think that a lot of these displaced workers have little to no pay. But when we think that such companies take them under their wing, they have comparatively more pay than previously. And we think that these individuals, of course, they want more pay because they're already displaced by such companies. Everything is really unrealistic from side opposition to say that these people won't try. And we think that even if they are unqualified, they will still benefit from site closing governance policy. We think that the comparative is that these individuals will get no pay at all because site opposition is not seeing this comparative. We think that under site closing government, at least we, to some extent, allow these individuals previously more pay than they previously had. And we know that even if that pay is very little, we think on a scale, there's more pay on a net. Everything that site closing government is the only site that protects the best interests of all the stakeholders.
In a world where today, for example, developing countries like Malaysia and other countries that are third world need these job opportunities to progress the nation further, we think that on closing opposition, if this policy were to run on gov side, that this will harm the development of the nation as a whole. Before I continue, let's clarify something about this debate. The debate is not only hiring people displaced by their jobs. They're not going to automatically get the job just because they were displaced by the disruptive company, but they are prioritized to get the job, so their chances of actually getting it are higher, so they don't actually get the job immediately. And before I continue, I will start with my rebuttals and move on with my two arguments. My first argument is why disruptive companies are more successful than these non-disruptive companies and cause the displacement in the first place. And secondly, how this also affects people who aren't displaced by their jobs. So before I continue my rebuttals, there's both opening and closing government fail to see the bigger picture here in this debate. The debate, they kept on ranting about how these job opportunities affect the individuals as a whole, but fail to see how it affects the country as a whole and how this actually benefits the country altogether. So my first rebuttal is how the member of government said how the world is now better because these disruptive companies hired the people who were displaced by their jobs. So now displaced by their jobs have jobs back and they have a source of income. So, but this is not true because now it's not a brilliant utopia for all the people that aren't displaced by their jobs, because now because of the qualification that they do not have, now more people that were displaced at their jobs are in these like Uber companies, and people who weren't displaced can't actually get the jobs to be in these Uber companies. And the majority of people who actually opt in to work for like Uber, disruptive companies such as Uber or Airbnb, and Airbnb are people who do not have the most of the time do not have the qualification to actually get a better job. This is why they go for these Uber and Airbnb, because although they're not a super qualified job, it pays a decent pay enough to provide for their families. Before I continue, yes. I'll answer your rebuttal in my argument. So my first argument is why these disruptive companies are more successful than these non-disruptive companies and cause the displacement of jobs in the first place. So why do these disruptive companies actually displace the jobs of these individuals? It's because these companies are more efficient, they are cheaper, more people use it, they are more convenient, it's more accessible. For example, Uber, you can just use an app and you can call an Uber for a taxi as compared to how normal taxis work nowadays. So this is why people are more likely to choose Uber over standard taxi services. So you as an individual are most likely going to pick Uber over a standard taxi service. So if a lot of taxi drivers are already displaced of their jobs after my argument, so if a lot of taxi drivers are displaced in the first place of their jobs, and they are not earning as much money, they're automatically going to either quit their job or want to opt into Uber in the first place. So they're not going to just stay in their job and earn no money. They're obviously most likely going to opt into Uber so that they can get a better job and have money. Since these taxi drivers are already more experienced as they are standard taxi drivers, they're already
they already have a higher chance to actually get hired by these Uber companies, because these companies will look at the background, the experience that they have. So these taxi drivers already have an upper hand in getting all these jobs. So by mandating these disruptive companies to prioritize them, you're giving them an even higher chance that they do not already need due to their qualification as a already, for example, a taxi driver, they do actually get. So the trade-off here is that we are willing to trade off more of these displaced workers as taxi drivers in order to have more employment for people who actually aren't as qualified as them. And I'll explain why this is worth it in my second argument. Before I continue, yes.
How do you better develop the country if more people are displaced and no way under your side?
I explained that in my second argument. So how this also affects people who aren't displaced by their jobs and the country, and how it affects the country. So they aren't as experienced as these taxi drivers are. So they're less likely to get the job in the first place. So they're less likely to get hired. So by prioritizing all these displaced workers, you're giving them even less chances to get a job. So there'll be, although these people are displaced of their jobs, there's going to be even more people who don't even have jobs in the first place, which is way worse under your side. So since they're already less likely to be hired, but when you're going under, if you allow this policy to run under Gulf world, they create even harder work for these people to actually get jobs, to have a roof, to have a shop, to provide for their family. So this incentivizes people to apply for the jobs in the first place, knowing that they're going to have a less of a chance compared to these people displaced by their jobs to actually get one. So you're gonna encourage these people who aren't originally taxi drivers to not apply for your jobs in the first place. So you're going to have even less employed adults in the country altogether. So these disruptive industries already take a big chunk out of the market today. They provide a lot of incomes and source for the country. So in the majority of people, the people who aren't as experienced as these taxi drivers do not get the jobs, do not get these jobs. You're leaving Malaysia with, for example, Malaysia with even less working adults that can pay taxes, that can actually contribute better to the country. So thus depleting the already low economic state of our country. And this is much worse compared to under closing opposition, where although not all of these displaced workers will get a job, most of them will, together with more individuals who aren't as experienced, then we will have a better economic state for countries that need the development in the first place. So the comparative here is that on our side, we favor the majority, the people that do not have as much qualification, compared to their side, where they prioritize so much of these displaced workers that do not even need this much upper hand to get the job in the Thus, their economic growth is way slower compared to on our side, which we think on closing opposition, the main thing about this debate, the most important thing about this debate is how these jobs actually affect countries, and especially like countries as Malaysia as a whole. With that, I will cut the close.
The world that side opposition is proposing was a world about how they get individuals and how they let them obtain jobs, even though that was a blatant lie. And the actual world that they are proposing is a world where they deny individuals better opportunities at obtaining jobs because they don't allow them to associate themselves with jobs that have names or brands. There are three questions in today's debate. The first, which side better benefits the disruptive? The second, which side better benefits these displaced workers? And thirdly, do the disruptive services have an obligation to help these displaced workers? But before I move on into this question, let's talk about the extension that side closing opposition was bringing in today's debate. But before that, they were talking about things about qualification. We don't think that's something that's very valuable in today's debate because we both consider that they have certain type of skills and therefore they are better able at obtaining this job. But the other thing they're talking about, how these people are better at obtaining jobs and prioritizing is basically useless. We feel giving them that prioritization is what makes them have a better opportunity. Because even though though there are taxi drivers who have those skills, they aren't hired normally because all these other people, Uber prioritizes other people that don't have, who want those people. Have you seen? So they probably don't want those people. But even if those people are prioritized and they will definitely get the job, we feel that those taxi drivers are people we want to help the most because those people are victims of these MNCs. All these other people who are coming out of college and all of that thing have better opportunities and getting jobs that mean a lot more. Uber isn't actually a very good job. It's something that can help people get out of the poverty cycle because they can do that. But we feel those other people who are coming out of college and all those other people, and it's unreasonable to assume that they'll probably just go for Uber. So we know all those things about how these people are displaced and all those taxi drivers are something that's completely invalid. Before I move on, sure.
These companies are already like getting a good name for themselves because they give job to the jobless. How is the term savior better under your side?
What, sorry?
Okay, these companies are already making a good name for themselves because they provide job for the jobless on the streets instead of the ones that need displaced. How is the term savior better under your side?
Firstly, the taxi industry, when Uber was introduced in Malaysia, literally beat up people who were driving Ubers. So we feel even though they already have the term savior, we feel that those people are not letting them beat up these Uber drivers are something that's good because they will not recommend to other people that Uber is something that's bad. So we feel those people on the ground will probably just go with it. And we feel that having a better reputation on the ground, just having the term savior, is something that's better generally for those companies. So let's move on into these three questions. See, first, which side better benefits these disruptive services? Two levels on this: the reputation within countries, and secondly, which side better helps them at letting people purchase their product. Firstly, which side better helps them at gaining reputation within the countries? In Malaysia, Uber drivers were literally getting beaten up because they got those jobs and they were stealing jobs from taxi drivers. We feel having a good reputation on the ground is something that's beneficial for these services, and therefore letting Malaysians have a go at this product or people who are displaced by those people and all those things are something that's good because they gain the reputation that is valuable since they are saving other people who are displaced by the system and people who were much more of a victim compared to these other people, and therefore you create less victims and you create a better reputation for this company. You create a reputation where people are more likely to buy into it because they are saving more people who were displaced because they went into Malaysia. Have a seat. I've already taken one. Secondly, which side better helps them at buying the product? Firstly, people will buy the product because they're using Malaysians a lot more now, and they're saving people who are within the poverty cycle and were to bring or not being able to feed their family. Have a seat. So, and therefore, once you buy once you let Malaysians see and let Malaysians be much more friendly towards products that are foreign, you create a better economical benefit. Like what my extension speaker and our extension was. We told you how there's a better economical benefit for these companies and an economical benefit for Malaysia. Then coming up here and telling us how the development will be harmed is something that's completely false because there was no type of analysis to back that up. How do we create a better economical benefit? For example, there'll be a better flow of capital within the area. More people are more likely to invest within those type of countries like Airbnb and Uber, and therefore there's a better flow of money, and therefore there's more flow of money, and therefore more people. It creates a better cycle of money for people to buy into. So second question, which side better benefits these displaced workers? Two levels. Which side is better able at giving them jobs? And secondly, which side better at giving them experiences which are worthwhile? Firstly, which side is better able at giving them jobs? We still don't understand on this case of opposition how they are better able at giving people jobs and how they are going and how they are, but we are still very unsure how they're going to achieve more jobs. They haven't told us why or how. They only told us how they will be able to give people. They only told us the benefits of giving them jobs. We also feel that those people they're giving jobs to are the people who aren't even victims whatsoever. They have degrees. They are literally coming out of college. Those are the people, those are the stakeholders they are caring about. These people that we are talking about, these people who have been displaced, are people within the poverty line, or the people who have been displaced and therefore have no other opportunity at getting another job because being a taxi driver was the only opportunity they got. All those people are people who don't have any type of opportunity for job. Therefore, we feel the prioritization of them is something that is very important and something that is needed, and therefore it creates something that's good. We feel that we give them better opportunities and job, and after they do their job at Uber, it gives them a better opportunity in getting another job because now they have a brand and name under them. There's something better on their CV, and therefore they're better able at living life compared to being left in the dark, being left and rot in the dust known as the poverty cycle. Secondly, which side is better at giving them experiences which are worthwhile? The side of opposition has basically come up here and told you that these people should rot in the dust. They should be left in the poverty cycle because they are the only people they want to prioritize are the people who are coming out of college. That's something that is morally unjust and something that is plainly terrible. What we feel is something we give. We give them experiences which are worthwhile. We give them experiences like how to handle customers. We give them experiences on how implementation is supposed to work. We feel those type of experiences which are valuable, and those type of experiences are what give them jobs and let them help them get out of the poverty cycle or let them better able at getting them out of the poverty cycle. Third issue, do these disruptive services have an obligation to help these displaced workers? Them coming up here and telling you that the displaced services have come into our country and they're fine with these people being displaced and left in the dust is something that is terrible. Not telling us that these people aren't worth anything whatsoever. Telling us that these people aren't worth giving them a because they aren't able to contribute to our country. You know, giving them a job is not letting them contribute to the country, therefore you're complicit in that. So we feel that if you want a side that gives people better opportunities at getting a job or better opportunity at just living life, go with side closing government.
In status quo, there are many workers working for both these disruptive industries and these services who are already there, and these workers are displaced by these disruptive industries. So side government is only talking about how they help disruptive industries and these displaced workers, but they're not really talking about effects this has on the country and those people living in it. So I have two issues today, but before that I have a few rebuttals for side government. So they're more because displaced job victims, but they are a minority, but you have more jobless victims because them being the majority just because they aren't prioritized for the job. And who are the majority stakeholders here? Because these most people have been most people don't have jobs nowadays and they need to find a form of work and a source of income. So these jobless people are these majority people who don't get the same opportunity that these people like taxi drivers already have, and they already have a job, so they don't need to take opportunities away from these people who don't have jobless people, who are jobless, and just because they are like supposedly less paid, but even then they are at least paid more than these jobless people who don't get paid at all on side government. So even if they are getting displaced, they can just, even like if these taxi drivers get like displaced, they can like opt for a better one. Like they can just quit their job and then like try to get to Uber because like they have that qualification, which is what like side opening opposition is going about. They can easily get into these disruptive industries like Uber and Grab. So moving on with my first issue, which is which side better helps employing workers and thus increase Malaysia's economy. So side closing opposition allows disruptive industries and these services to both be active. So what this gives to Malaysia is that people who like are jobless, who want to support, who need money, who need to earn money for their families, who need a roof on their heads, need to have jobs. Because if without jobs, Malaysia will be short of like workers who can contribute to the country, and instead you have like more taxi drivers who are paid, but neglecting the majority of our workers and audience. We are not we're not saying that like these taxi drivers can't get into Uber by themselves, because like they are actually have a they are more likely to get into Uber without your policy, because they already have qualifications for it. So this Uber will like know like they are qualified, and they are more likely to let them like work for them. So your policy is like useless, because these taxi drivers can get into Uber without this policy. So moving on, people who like want to earn money for themselves, yeah, so they can get jobs by these disruptive industries, because that's what disruptive industries are for. Because although they like want to make money, because they want to make money and they're not part of the government, they still offer jobs for these people, and that is a benefit that site closing government wants to take. So closing opposition wants to take. So site government gives opportunities to employed workers who are displaced by these disruptive industries. So these displaced workers will be able to have job opportunities in these disruptive companies. But we tell you that site closing opposition is willing to trade off these like displaced workers for more people in these disruptive industries, because with more people contributing to the Malaysia's economy, this is like a direct benefit to boosting Malaysia and helping a developing country like it. So because like taxi drivers can also work for disruptive industries, and both in this disruptive industries and taxi drivers, people who are jobless can work for these disruptive industries. So there is no problem in getting people to work for them. Yes.
So would you rather want displaced taxi driver opt into Uber, or can displaced taxi drivers opt into Uber, because now we make it easier?
No, we would rather have these displaced taxi drivers continue, because they already have jobs, and these unemployed workers to go into Uber and get some jobs for themselves and earn money. So how does this affect the country? So when unemployed people opt into Uber or Grab, this gives more people job opportunities, because along with taxi drivers, there are more like workers and more accessibility to transport in the country, which boosts the economy, because there's more chances for people to like travel and then like to go to places. And like this, when there are more people like doing this, they are like they are paid like giving money to help the country and thus developing it. So by forcing disruptive companies to only prioritize displaced workers, then side government is leaving Malaysia to people who are paid more, but those people, but they're leaving a lot of people who don't have work and who need jobs to help the country like develop and progress further. With that, I'm never proud of the boss.